Hello, friends. Today I want to do something unusual. I want to tell you about the history of homeopathy through the development of its literature. So we'll go to the very beginning. The very beginning was Samuel Hahnemann, and his first book was The Organon of Medicine. This has got different titles, and it's been translated many times, and it is still being translated by homeopaths to this day. So how this book came about was that Hahnemann, who was a physician, a chemist, and a translator, was translating a book by William Cullen, in which William Cullen said that a quinine or cinchona bark was curative to malaria because of its bitterness. Hahnemann said that doesn't make sense because there are other substances that are equally as bitter that do not cure malaria. So what he did was he took quinine himself, and what he discovered was that he got sick and he developed symptoms of malaria. Then when he discontinued taking the remedy, he was restored to his normal level of health. From this, he understood that the reason quinine or cinchona bark is curative in malaria is that it is capable of producing symptoms similar to malaria, as he discovered when he took it in the first proving. In his lifetime, Hahnemann proceeded to prove over 100 remedies with the help of other doctors and friends. And those remedies are the foundation of our homeopathic Materia Medica. So in the Organon, what Samuel Hahnemann did was he set out the rules, the guide rules for how to use homeopathy safely, and he set out the principles of homeopathic treatment. So the main principle, the number one, is the law of similars. You can also call it the law of resonance, which says that two similar substances will cancel each other out. So that's the basis of the law of similars. And how we discover the healing properties of the remedies, again, is through the proving. So we match the symptoms of the patient to a remedy that has produced similar symptoms in provings on healthy people. So the second thing that he taught about was the minimum dose. So during his lifetime, I mean, then and now, Hahnemann was noticing that people were getting very severe side effects from the medications they were taking. So he experimented with making the remedies as small as possible. And he did this through a process called potentization, which utilizes succussion and dilution to create to make the remedy smaller and smaller. So what he found was that when you make the remedies more and more immaterial, they gain in therapeutic power. So, for example, a single dose of a 30C remedy can hold for many, many months. A 200C potency remedy can hold, from my experience, 8 months and longer. And often, a single dose of a remedy will take away a layer, and you don't need that remedy anymore. You can move on to another remedy for your healing. So we have the law of similars, the minimum dose, and let's see, yeah, the individualizing of the treatment. So in homeopathy, we don't treat according to a disease diagnosis. We treat the patient, not the diagnosis. So, for example, somebody who has the flu, 5 different people with the flu will not necessarily have the same presentation. So we won't give the same remedy to those 5 people. We individualize. We see how is it different in this person from in that person. So that's why the disease diagnosis is not as important in homeopathy as it is in Western medicine. Then the other concept that Hahnemann taught was the concept of the vital force. So he said that the remedies have an effect on the vital force. And this is some immaterial thing inside of us, which which causes the disturbance in our health. So when we're treating with homeopathy, we are treating the vital force. And yeah, so that's a complicated subject, which I'm not going to get into any further. Homeopathy is a holistic system of medicine. So what that means is that we look at all aspects of the person when we prescribe a remedy. So the practitioner is going to find out about your emotional state, which includes your dreams, your fears, your attitudes, and about your physical symptoms, whatever they may be, and your food preferences, the modalities of your case. That's what makes you feel better and what makes you feel worse. And then they put it all together, and there should be some common thread that connects all these various pieces together that will bring you to a single homeopathic remedy. This is different from Western medicine because Western medicine kind of looks at people as an accumulation of many parts. And a different doctor, a different specialist will treat the different parts. So you have an eye doctor, a doctor for your teeth, etc., etc. In homeopathy, we don't do that. We look at what is the thread that connects all of these pieces, because we are a totality. The remedy that we need for our health should cover that totality. Now, the other thing that Hahnemann stressed in his book, which is a hallmark of classical homeopathy, is one remedy at a time. And he believed this was important because we prove the remedy one at a time, so we know what its therapeutic properties are. This has been done differently. There are a lot of people who are using compound remedies now in homeopathy. And also, the situation has gotten a little bit more complicated in these days than they were when Hahnemann wrote his book, because people's health has become more complex due to vaccinations, drugs that they've taken, environmental factors, inherited disease conditions. So it's gotten to be more complex. But still, the ideal is one remedy at a time. Now, I'm going to go to Hahnemann's next book, which is his chronic diseases. This is a little book. And in this book, Hahnemann introduces his theory of miasms, which is really central to homeopathy. So he identified three primary miasms: the psoric miasm, the psychotic miasm, and the syphilitic miasm. The central remedy for the psoric miasm, he said, was sulfur. The central remedy for the psychotic miasm was thuya, and the central remedy for the syphilitic miasm is mercurius. So what are the miasms? So the miasms are a predisposition to disease states, and they're characterized by certain things. The psoric miasm is characterized by the itch. That's the physical manifestation. The emotional manifestation is life is a struggle. Then the psychotic miasm is characterized by overgrowth of tissue. So this could be warts, moles, anything, polyps, anything growing on the skin. Cancer is a part of that, anything growing and overgrowth. And what characterizes this is kind of like an underlying feeling of shame. There's something the matter with me that's ugly, and I need to hide it. I don't want other people to see it. I don't want other people to know about it. I need to compensate for it. Then the next miasm is a syphilitic. So in the syphilitic miasm is characterized by the ulcer, the syphilitic ulcer or bubo. And the feeling here is really, it can be a feeling of hopelessness. There could be suicidal tendencies, homicidal tendencies. It's more of a destructive pattern. So we can all go from one miasm to another. The healthiest is the psoric miasm. So if we are predominantly syphilitic, we want to be moving toward the psoric miasm as we're getting healthier. Now, homeopaths came along later and they said, you know what? We're not going to limit ourselves to these three original miasms. There are combinations of these miasms, and they're way, way more than just that. So then we came to the tubercular miasm. So the tubercular miasm is a combination of the psoric miasm and the syphilitic miasm. And tuberculosis was very, rampant. It was rampant in the 19th century and earlier, and it's still rampant. It's one of the biggest diseases of mankind. And that's really characterized by a feeling of restlessness, a romantic desire to explore the world. So Christopher Columbus, sailing the seas, Marco Polo, the age of exploration is the age of tuberculosis. And then you have the romantic musicians, the romantic poets, for example, Chopin, and all of these people tended to die at young ages, early ages. And yeah, so that's our tuberculosis, and it still goes on now. So the cancer miasm is considered to be a combination of the three miasms. So you have the overgrowth of tissue and the destructive processes. There are a lot of tri-miasmatic diseases like asthma, hay fever. Many diseases are triasmatic. That means you have to have all three of these in order to make them happen. And then Rojan Sankaran came along in around 2000 or so, and he said, you know what? There are 10 miasms, not the original three, not the five. So he added the acute miasm, the typhoid miasm, the ringworm miasm, the leprosy miasm, the malaria miasm, and more. So that was his view. So people are always working with that. Now I'm going to go on to the next subject, and that is the contributions of James Tyler Kent. So James Tyler Kent, I believe he was an American homeopath, and he wrote this book, Lectures on Homeopathic Philosophy. So really, to understand how to use homeopathy in a classical manner, you need to have a background in this book, you need to have a background in the chronic diseases, and you need to have a background in the Organon of Medicine. Now, he also contributed a few additional books. This is his repertory of the homeopathic Materia Medica. Now, when I first started to study homeopathy, I received this in the mail in 1983. And I looked at the book and I said, oh my gosh, look at how much information is there. How am I ever going to learn that? How am I ever going to be a homeopath? And it really is daunting. It was daunting in 1983, and now in 2025, it has not gotten less daunting. It's an enormous undertaking. It's a work of love. Now, along with that book, he wrote this book, and this is his Materia Medica. So here, when you find a remedy, you have no idea what it's for. You go and you look here and you can read about it. Now, his perspective, the way he described things was very much as a clinician and as a doctor. So it's very much more descriptive of physical pathology. So that was the tendency then. Then we're going to move on to other repertories. Now, then after him, you have the people who wrote encyclopedic volumes describing what was discovered in the provings on different remedies. So I have about 4 different encyclopedic texts. This is actually Hahnemann's Materia Medica Pura. So this was the first homeopathic Materia Medica. This is where he describes his experience with doing the provings and the experiences of the doctor. So these are the first provings. And yeah, so that's that. Then we come along to Hering's, the guiding symptoms of our homeopathic Materia Medica. So again, here he does the same thing. He goes down all the different parts of the body and also tells about the provers, their ages of the provers, and cured cases. This is a 10-volume set. I'm going to come back to Constantine Hering because he was probably one of the greatest contributors to homeopathy, if not the greatest. Then we're going to come to T.F. Allen's. This is a 12-volume encyclopedic text doing pretty much the same thing as Hering's did. Again, going down system by system, translating the language of the provers into this encyclopedic set. Then we come to J.H. Clarke. Again, he does the same thing, and but he reduces it to just 3 volumes, not 10 or 12. And all of these books are excellent references for learning about the remedies. Now, as it happened, homeopaths understood that they can't carry 12 volumes of a book to the bedside of their patient because it's just not reasonable. So they needed to make it far more concise. And so there were a lot of books written that were summaries of what they called the keynotes or the chief things that you have to know about in order to prescribe a remedy. So one of the greatest of these was Boericke's Materia Medica. This was the first Materia Medica that I used. And many years ago, I went through those big encyclopedic books, and I understood how he came to this. What he would do is he would go through each remedy and really come to pick out the symptoms that were most characteristic of that particular remedy, so that you could come to it as easily as possible. So this has been a fantastic reference book to homeopaths, and it's just magnificently written over the years. Now, the next book I want to tell you about is The Homeopathic Domestic Physician by Constantine Hering. So another Hering book. I'll tell you first another thing about Constantine Hering. Constantine Hering was hired, I don't know by whom, to disprove homeopathy. So in the process of disproving it, he became a great believer. So he was convinced of its validity. So what he did was he did many things, but one is that he was the prover of Lachesis muta, or the surukuku snake, and which became one of our most important homeopathic remedies. This is a remedy that is good for menopause, for alcoholism. It's known for left-sided complaints. It's the big mental guiding symptom is jealousy and talkativeness or loquacity. So putting those together, you come to Lachesis muta, and this remedy has probably saved almost more people's lives than any other. It's just a great, great homeopathic remedy, useful for all stages of life, but particularly for the menopause. It's great for PMS symptoms. Anyway, then he wrote this book called The Homeopathic Domestic Physician. Now, the American country doctor was likely to be carrying this book in his along with him. And it was also a book that many, the country housewife was likely to have as well. They would purchase a homeopathic kit, maybe a 50 remedy kit, and they would have this book as their guide. Now, I looked at this book this morning. I opened up just by chance to his page on the teeth, and it is really, really unbelievably fantastic. how he describes what they might experience. He tells people that they may experience an aggravation of symptoms, and he tells them about how to repeat the remedy. So this is really, he held the hand of the American country doctor and the American country housewife. Now, then he goes through and he talks about the symptoms of the teeth. So pain, for example, in the front teeth, or pain in the eye and stomach teeth, or pain in the molars. And his list of remedies is absolutely superb. I personally had an experience with pain in a molar where my dentist injured a molar that she was filling, and she injured the nerve. And the dentist said, there's nothing you can do about this now, except you have to have that tooth, you have to go to the orthodontist, and that tooth needs to be extracted. Well, what I did was I took two remedies. The first one was chamomilla, and I got approving of chamomilla, and I understood why babies scream and cry when they have a toothache. Chamomilla is the number one remedy for toothaches in babies, in children, I mean, who are teething. And I experienced the sensation of the pain that child would have, and it is awful. And it didn't help me. So then the next remedy I took was phosphorus, a 30C of phosphorus, and I had a severe aggravation. But after that severe aggravation, I didn't have pain in that tooth anymore, and I was able to save the tooth. I didn't have to have it just extracted. And I had a client about a week or so later who had a similar experience at the dentist. In her case, she needed staphysagria for her molar, and she was able to save her molar with that remedy. Then I'm going to go on and talk about a few other things. There's a lot that I want to talk about. I see all these books I laid out. This is Harris Coulter's book, Divided Legacy. Here, Harris Coulter talks about what happened between homeopathy and Western medicine. At the turn of the last century, a quarter of the doctors in this country were homeopaths. And there were so many teaching hospitals and universities all around the country. The first, the homeopathic universities were the first to allow women in before Western medicine allowed women in. And also homeopathic provings or double-blind studies were done in homeopathy, I think 45 years before they were utilized by Western medicine. So anyway, he goes in and he talks about basically what happened. And there's a lot of things that happened. Antibiotics came in, and everybody thought this is the great panacea. And then there was the Flexner report, I think about 1917 or so, which said that, doctors are people who wear white coats and who stand in labs and look at the thing. So they said, no, homeopathy is not real medicine. This is quackery. And they forbade homeopathy from being taught in the medical colleges. So since that time, since 1917, most doctors have never heard of the word homeopathy. It's not taught in the American medical schools. And the other thing is that homeopathy is inexpensive medicine. So the pharmaceutical industry was not happy about that. They wanted to make big bucks. And homeopathic remedies were very, very inexpensive, and you could not monetize it in the way you could allopathic medicine. So there was a financial incentive to obliterate homeopathy from the minds of people. So this is just an absolute tragedy, because homeopathy is divine medicine. It's proven medicine. It has a track record that is, centuries old. It's now the number one or number two form of medicine used in India. It's huge in Europe. 57% of people in Switzerland use it. The British royal family has used homeopathy historically. Anyway, And homeopathy has an amazing track record in epidemics. So Hahnemann first used homeopathy in an epidemic in a cholera epidemic in the 19th century, and he used basically three remedies: cuprum for the cramping, veratrum album, and what was the third one? Cuprum, veratrum album, and camphora. Camphor was for the collapse and for the early stages. Veratrum album was for profuse vomiting and diarrhea, and cuprum was for muscle cramps and spasms. So he was able to help so many people with that, and that helped to popularize homeopathy. Then in the early part of the 20th century, we had the Spanish flu, which killed off, I don't know, a huge portion of the population of the earth. And people who were treated homeopathically had a much lower mortality rate than people who were treated allopathically. So homeopathy has proved itself in epidemics over time, and it has also been very, very good in the recent COVID-19 pandemic in countries where it was used, India primarily. Now I'm going to go to a little bit more. Well, here's a lovely little book. This one is called Sensations as If, and this was written by Herbert A. Roberts. So here he would take, if in approving, if a patient said, I have a sensation as if lightning were dazzling before my eyes, and then you could look in here and it says natrum muriaticum. So this is whenever the patient says sensations as if, it feels like. You can look it up in here and you can find some unusual treasures. So that's that. Then I want to go to modern trends in homeopathy. There are a lot of modern trends in homeopathy. I'm going to go to some of the modern provings. So here we have people like Nancy Herrick expanding our Materia Medica to include more animal remedies. So these are remedies made from the milks of animals or the blood of animals, and it really helps you get an understanding of what's going on in that animal. And people who need those remedies, an animal remedy, she has introduced a lot of them in this book. Now we go to the birds. The same thing was done by the birds. This is by Jonathan Shore, where he proved quite a number of birds, and he added those into our Materia Medica. And this field is also continuing to expand. Then we have this. I have a lot of books by Franz Vermeulen. Yeah, and I'm going to go into those right now. So Franz Vermeulen, he wrote many, many modern Materia Medicas, and he keeps on updating it and releasing newer editions. This one I particularly love. This is his Prisma. And what he does is he takes a substance and he'll tell you about how that substance is used in industry or in agriculture and gives you a history of that substance. So you really get an understanding of, what is that? Where did it come from? How is it used? How does it pertain to mankind? And then he'll go down and he'll tell you the symptoms of the remedy. And then he always has a poem or so that characterizes the remedy that's always very charming. So that's Franz Vermeulen's Prisma. Then he has another series of books. This one is called Monera. And this one is he talks about the single-celled organisms. For example, let's see, syphilinum and what impact syphilis has had on mankind. So he'll give you the characteristics, the provings of and the guiding symptoms to syphilinum as a remedy. He talks about tuberculinum. He talks about the Lyme nosode, Borrelia burgdorferi, and he talks about bowel nosode. So this is a fantastic book. Then I want to introduce a few other things. this book here, Homeopathy and Minerals. This is John Scholten's book. So here, what he does is he talks about that the different minerals have different characteristics. So the mineral salts will have different characteristics. He'll match, for example, natrum muriaticum, he'll match the natrum side to the muriaticum side and tell you what its mental characteristics are. So this is a beautiful book. Then I'm going to go down a bit further. Okay, I'll come here to The Soul of Remedies by Rajan Sankaran. So what happened in this century is that people wanted to know more about the emotional, the psychological portraits of the remedies, whereas in Kent's age, it was more the physical, how it made them ill, what did the sick patient look like? So this is more, what are they like emotionally, psychologically? So Sankaran has been a very important figure in homeopathy over the last 30 or so years. He developed a system called the Sankaran sensation method. Anyway, that's a topic on its own, which has become very popular in the last 30 years. So that's Sankaran. And then this is Homeopathy for Farm and Garden. And what this is a book about how you treat plants with homeopathy to make plants healthier and the planet healthier. So I have used this book to treat the plants in my garden, and I am blown away by what I see. There's a correspondence between plants and people. For example, the leaf on a plant corresponds to the tongue on a person. So to understand how to treat a plant, you can look at its leaf and see if you can get any hints as to what its disturbance is. Then you can go in the tongue chapter in a repertory and look at see if you could match the symptom of the leaf to a symptom in the tongue chapter. And it's amazing what good you can do for your plants. Now, here are the two books that I use most these days. This is the Meta Repertory by Dr. Robin Murphy. Now, in this book, this is a modern repertory. I showed you the old repertory that I used when I first began to study. So this book is just beautiful. Dr. Murphy was very, very accurate. So he wanted to describe the language of the proving very, very closely. So, for example, if a person said, I like dogs, he's going to put like dogs in the mind section with like. And then he's going to put, if they say, I love dogs, they're going to put love. He doesn't fool around. He interprets pretty much exactly. He doesn't give himself any license to summarize it or to say it in a different way than it was said in the provings. So I've been studying the mind section and very, very carefully. So as I go through the mind section, if I see a remedy I don't know, I then look it up in the Nature's Materia Medica. So as I'm looking through here, if I don't know a remedy, I'll come here and I'll look it up, and then I could read all about it. And this expands my mind and teaches me, I've learned so many new remedies by using his book. Now, here's another repertory. So there are many repertories have been written over the years. Each of them is organized in a different fashion. This one is the one that Synergy Homeopathy and Kent Homeopathic Associates based their repertory software on. And I'm going to actually show you an example of what a repertory looks like on the computer. Hold on a second. Let's see if I can actually get it open. Okay. So this is the case of a little boy. This is a very simple, very short case. And the first remedy is calcarea carbonica. He has some developmental delays, and this is an excellent remedy for developmental delays in babies and in children. So you can see at the top, on the side, you have the remedy names, and along the top, you have, sorry, not the remedy names, but the rubrics, the symptoms that we're looking up. And then along the top, we have the remedies that have that symptom. And then if it's colored a dark, like a almost black color, that's a high rating. So that's a 3 or a 4. The next lighter level is a 2, which would be italics in the book. And then the plain would just be plain text, the lightest color. So this is a great tool. And then you can then click on any of these remedies here at the top, and then that will open up a Materia Medica. And there are something like, oh, I don't know, in this particular software, about 900 books in here and periodicals. So you can read about every remedy in all of those different sources. So the computer makes repertorization very rapid, but the downside is that you lose the connection to the book. The computer is still just two-dimensional. The book is three-dimensional. You can shuffle through it, look through it, turn the pages. There's a wonderful thing to have. It's a wonderful thing to have that connection with the book. Okay, folks, so that was my introduction to homeopathy through the literature. Oh, wait, I forgot a couple of things. I forgot actually a few major things. I wanted to talk to you about another modern trend in homeopathy has been to classify the remedies according to their family, the class, the species, the subspecies, etc. The homeopath that began this whole process was Farrington. And this has been this in the modern world, this tendency to work in that way has really exploded. This is kind of the modern tendency. I show you another book. This book, Wondrous Order, following the tradition of Farrington, um, takes the plant kingdom and groups the plants according to the family, the subspecies, etc. And also, she talks about the history of the development of the plants and how that corresponds to the history of the development of human beings and the stages of life in human beings. Okay, I can't cover it all. There's so much to say, and I apologize to all the people that I haven't mentioned, and all the books I haven't mentioned. But in closing, I do want to express my gratitude to Dana Ullman, who owns Homeopathic Educational Services. So almost all of the books I have here and my entire library of books were purchased from him. So Dana Ullman and Homeopathic Educational Services, thank you. I also want to thank Kim Alia, who made this movie called Introducing Homeopathy. And I love that movie. It is shown on the Children's Health Defense website, every couple of months. And please don't miss it. You will love it. You'll learn a lot about homeopathy from that. Okay, friends, homeopathy is beautiful medicine. It should be every household should have a homeopathic kit for emergencies. Everyone should learn how to use homeopathy in emergency situations. It should be there in all the hospitals in the United States. I can go on and on, but I'll stop. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.